Mary Dunn.
Here.
All present.
Excellent. If we could rise and have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Mr. Sands and Mr. Mosher.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Normally I warn the people, I apologize, but I knew you two could handle it. Mr. Emmett, student staff recognition.
Yes, we have some friends with us this evening from Wethersfield High School to talk about some of the great things that are going on at the high school. So come on up.
Thank you, Mr. Sutton. Good evening. My name is Siobhan O'Connor, for those of you who don't know me. I know you do. Wethersfield High School principal. I am so excited to be here tonight because we are sharing the first in a series of segments that we're calling this year, Great Things That Happen Here at Wethersfield High School. I'm very much just in awe of the 6 educators that you're going to see today because they not only embody Goal 2 of the strategic plan of really bringing the outside of those classrooms in, and then vice versa, bringing our students out into the community. Each one of these educators are passionate about their subject area, but even more passionate about creating these opportunities for kids, and you're going to hear about 4 of them here tonight. So the first I'm going to introduce you is Andrea Leichner and Pam Harrison to talk about First Day the Eagles Way. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrea Leichner. I am a teacher at Wethersfield High School.
I'm Pam Harrison. I'm one of the 2 school psychologists at the high school.
So this was our second year in creating the First Day the Eagles Way, and I had a group of students that helped put it together. Noah, if you want to come up. Where's Thomas? I saw Thomas too. Come on up. And Oliver, come on up. So these were some of the kids that helped plan it. This is an event that rising seniors come on board kind of the end of their junior year, and they spend the summer planning an event for the first day to try to welcome students back. And if you guys want to talk a little bit about what we did, or go ahead.
Go ahead, Oliver.
Come on, Oliver.
Oliver, over here.
Oh, there's a microphone.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So basically, we had 2 meetings over the summer after a info session at the end of the previous school year. So we had about 2 2-hour sessions over the summer where basically we just bounced ideas off each other and then worked out like a tentative budget, and then basically Ms. Leichner got all the booking and stuff done. We just came up with the ideas and ran the thing. And I think it went pretty well. I think there's still some things that need to be worked out, but I think it went a lot better than last year, and I think we can still make it better. So, unless you two want to say anything? I think you covered it.
So, and those are just some of the images that we had. The kids had, we had 2 dunk tanks that the teachers got in. We had equipment from the town that came over with trucks and ambulances and fire trucks that the kids could go in. The kids had organized all kinds of games down on Catone and other things on the soccer field. So we were outside for about an hour and a half. We ran through the schedule for the day, and then everyone went outside, and it was just a really nice way to welcome and kind of everybody back and kick off the school year.
And if I can just add, our student leaders were really phenomenal from the morning, getting it all set up to clean up afterwards. I mean, they were just
incredible
rock stars, and so we definitely couldn't have done it without the leadership that you see here and the others.
Great. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. O'Connor, do you want to do questions between them, or do you want to wait till the end since they're going to sit?
So
How do you want to do this?
I will defer to the group, but certainly you can ask questions now of that group if you'd like.
Anyone have any comments or questions for the Eagle Way?
I just have a comment that I think what a great way to start the school year, to everybody's bonding and getting back together again, and you're not just sitting in a classroom. You get to see each other, talk to each other. Great way to do it.
And
Thanks.
I do need to credit Ms. Leichner, because this is an idea, like, the power of not saying no first and starting with yes. Because Ms. Leichner came to me and said, do you think we could do this? And I said, yeah, I think we could, but like, let's work this out and really see how this goes. And I just really need to thank the Wethersfield community, because we've had 2 really generous donations over the past several years from the class of 1952, the class of 1955, and our PTSA that have really helped fund this, because as much as we'd love to do fun things, sometimes fun things are really expensive. And I think the kids have learned that in the planning process. But this really started with an idea from Ms. Leichner, who brought it from the school that she used to work at, and just felt like this was a really positive way, especially post-COVID, to bring people together. So really the kudos really go to her for starting the idea.
And if I could just add one thing that was remarkable with the students, both the first year I did it and this past year, is they wanted to make sure that there was enough activities for the entire student body. So it wasn't focused on just sports and games. We had a quiet area where we had, the nature center came in with animals. There was, kids could go inside and they could play games or color or play Uno or play bingo. So we had something, trying to have something for every facet of the student body. And I thought that was just, says a lot about the kids that we have at the high school as well.
And just a comment, did you say alumni were contributing to this
Yes.
generously? What a
Yes.
great way to get the alumni involved in the school again, because I'm sure they have fond memories.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I can't, it really wouldn't have been possible the past 2 years without those donations. It's a pretty significant expense, but I feel like we're investing in a positive school year by starting this way. And, in the morning, it's nice to just see your classes and not bring your book bags and not bring your Chromebooks and not hear about like all the things you will learn, because that will come, but just get to know each other and kind of cycle through all of your teachers and get the face to the name. I think it's especially helpful for our freshmen who are already nervous enough about the transition. And like, as a student said, right, it's always room to grow. I think that's anything we do, there's room to grow, but this is an event that has taken off, and really, thank you to the idea, and for us starting with yes instead of my tentative.
It worked out.
It did.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So next, you're going to hear from Ms. Kimberly Troy, our science department liaison, in regards to Chem Olympiad.
You guys are coming back up.
Hi, I'm Kimberly Troy, and I teach chemistry at the high school. And I'm here to just share some exciting news we had last spring about some of our students and their success in competing in the Chemistry Olympiad. For those of you that aren't aware of the program, it's a program that's sponsored by UConn every March. The Olympiad is an American Chemical Society sponsored event that occurs nationwide in different regions. So I've been taking our students there since I joined Wethersfield High 9 years ago. And we've always done pretty well at the competition, where high schools from all around the state, chem students come to compete. They bring their calculators and their goggles and all of their lab materials, and engage in competition in the morning and throughout the morning, and then how students do will kind of determine where they end up. So we had 3 students qualify for the second portion or second round that day. I want to shout out to Thomas that he was also part of that group. They engage in a laboratory experience after a short session in the morning, and then the students that participate in the lab, a very small percentage of them at UConn as well as UMass qualify for nationals. So Oliver and Noah were 2 of those students that day, and they're here to talk a little bit about their experience in competing in nationals and to give you some more insight. So pass it over to you guys.
Good evening. When people first hear that you're going to spend the next 5 hours taking 3 separate hour-long tests, they usually don't think that that's going to be a very good time. But it actually, it was. It really was. As to how the competition worked, so there was a hour-long multiple choice test in the morning, and then the top 10% from that moved on to the second round, which was like an in-lab kind of in-person lab experiment thing, where you were scored on how well you did in the lab and how well you completed the experiment. And then there was a written section, so sort of like an essay, FRQ sort of thing. And then in the actual Olympiad, it was sort of the same thing, but everything was kind of a level harder. And it was a great experience. Like I said, it doesn't seem fun when you're taking that many tests, but it actually was. And not only was it a great experience, like experiencing like what it was like to be in an actual UConn chemistry lab and use like the real chemicals that they were using and like the real processes that they were using, but you met a lot of really great people as well. So it was really great to just get out of the high school and learn.
That's great.
Yeah, so it really was a great opportunity for our students to see kind of how to experience labs and research outside of our small community and exposing them to not only research, but what they might think about for careers beyond this part of their lives. So it's just a great event. We're really proud of both of you, so congratulations.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Any
for
questions,
Emily?
comments? Yes.
I'd love to know, are Noah and Oliver doing next year? They're seniors this year?
Not to put you on the spot.
I know the plans probably aren't set, but
Well, I mean, if I can go back to the chemistry Olympiad, I would try to go on to the international level.
good for you. Where's Oliver? He left us. There he is.
He's hiding.
Do you have any plans to do this again, or do you have plans for next year?
Do the chemistry Olympiad again? I haven't studied. I haven't like looked at a chemistry textbook.
That is a hot high school, that is a hottest high school answer. That's a good one.
I probably should.
Mr. Cassio.
Yes, Oliver and Noah, congratulations. This is not an easy situation to get put into, but bravo to the both of you. I think that is a testament for you to take the step to move into the direction of your future. And it is, I'm so curious to see what's going to happen in the next 4 years. And hopefully you'll continue the road and follow your dreams. Congratulations.
Mr. Roberts.
I just want to say, as someone whose, let's say, strength did not lie in science, this is incredibly impressive, and I think even if you choose something that down the road that isn't 100% science related, I think what you're getting out of this is certainly going to do wonders for you.
Dr. Regan Lefebvre.
Congratulations. I'll echo my colleagues' comments that this is a really excellent academic achievement and one you should be really, really proud of. And I'm so glad that you have discovered the joy of taking tests and studying. May it stay with you for life. And can I also thank the adults who I'm sure have assisted and mentored you through this process. Mrs. Troy, I'm constantly impressed by the things I see coming out of your department through Student Programs Committee. So that's a real pleasure. And also to your families. And I'm not just saying that because I've worked with both of your dads. But I thank those families for supporting your academic ambitions.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. O'Connor.
Next, I would like to invite Ms. Carrie Zaleski, who is going to talk about the Connecticut High School Geography Challenge.
She's got a big crew.
Hello, everyone. I'm Carrie Zaleski, a social studies teacher at Wethersfield High School, geography club advisor, and field hockey coach. So I just came from a game. So I have had the opportunity to work with students in the geography club/team since we had geography put in place so many years ago. Mr. Sand actually helped get our teams to compete in this Connecticut Geography Challenge. I would say it's got to be over 10 years now we've been doing this. It's a wonderful experience. We have been to both Central Connecticut State University and UConn to compete in several different events. The kids are going to tell you a little bit about the events. And every year we've kind of gotten better and better, and this was the best. We have this year in our club, I would say, had the largest membership that we've ever had, the most interest that we've ever had, and that was very exciting to me. And these 5, and we're missing one who graduated last year, Ryan Carlson, they have such an interest in it, a love of it, and a tremendous amount of knowledge that is very impressive and very exciting. I will say that that day was incredible, because as I sat there in that hall, I knew they had it, and that was just an exciting moment. So let them tell you a little bit about the different events that they had to participate in. Do you know?
So the geography bee, it's a lot of fun because you go and we get to go to a whole new school, and we just get to explore our passion, because in school we don't really get to talk about geography that much. It's, the part of social studies that gets really overlooked, and my bad. Anyways,
That was easy.
it gets overlooked, but it's really fun to be able to go somewhere every week to the club and talk about geography and just explore our passion and just discuss it with other peoples that share it. And it's a lot of fun to just go out and then do the whole day-long process. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm going to pass it over to someone else. But the day, it's not really what you would expect it to be, because it's geography. So, what are you going to do? Just look at maps? But there's just a lot to it, and it's a lot more than you would expect. And I can just say that my other teammates they're really impressive, just the work that they put in. So that's it. I'll pass it on.
Good.
So, hi, I'm Colin. To add on to what Jack said, I think he brings up a good point that, we don't usually get to apply a lot of geography skills to, things in school. And it was just a nice experience to, go somewhere where, you could apply that knowledge and to, see so many other people, so many other students from so many other schools apply that knowledge. And, some of the things we did were pretty cool. And I'll talk about one of them and then pass it on to someone else. And one of them was orienteering. That was a very interesting one. So they give you a paper and different directions, different numbers of paces and different degrees where to point your compass. And it all ends up at this final, I think it was at a monument we ended up. And we knew we had the right location once we got to that monument. So using that skill of navigating yourself with the compass is really cool, and not something that nobody uses compasses anymore, but it was really cool to use it and be rewarded with us being correct. So yeah, it was cool.
Hi, I'm Jocelyn Case, and I think it was the first segment of our geography challenge was this part about maps. And essentially we had these different stations where we had these different maps that we had to analyze and answer questions about. And some of the maps were really interesting. I think there was one that was a map of Connecticut from the 1600s or something like that. And the names of everything were really oddly spaced. It was kind of funny and hard to read at times, but and I don't really know what else to say.
Hey everybody. So going to the geography bee was an amazing experience. I'm glad I can share it with all of my teammates. All of them were amazing, and they all have such great knowledge of the subject. And I'd like to share, during the geography challenge portion of the geography bee, we were able to get the record time. It's almost like a puzzle where you have to, it gives you like a paragraph about each question. You have to like figure out which country or region it's talking about. And we were all able to put our minds together, and we were able to get the record time by quite a bit. So I think that just goes to show how special the dedication my teammates put into this, and how great they are at geography.
Hello, everybody. After all the events that they had already talked about, at the end of the day, to close out the event, there was a geography bee, which assembled all of the teams from all the different schools all into the same room to all answer the same questions, and compete to see who can get the most correct answers. Our team, I wasn't with our team when they were doing this. I was there to help out with the event. However, I am in the club. The team did a fantastic job. I could overhear them all celebrating when they knew that they had an answer correct, and overall it was just fantastic to hear all of my teammates share their love for geography. It's great.
So I'll just finish up by saying, when that, well, first of all, Nick was part of our team. He was our alternate for the day. So he will be participating. This is our team for next year. Hope is that the Geography Challenge sometimes allows you to bring 2 teams, and that is our hope for next year, to let these guys get back so we can repeat as champions, and also bring another younger team along with us so that they can learn the ropes and get used to what they have to do to continue this legacy that they're leaving us. But I will also say that moment in that bowl room, the last thing, we were behind. And as Nick describes, you could see the energy back in the back of the room, and these guys pumped up for the whole day. And I knew then that they had it, and they came back, and I want to say you guys won by 10 plus points in the end. So it was it wasn't close. They did such a great job. So thank you. I will also say, we do geography in the classroom every day. We may not do orienteering, but.
Thank you.
It's like crushed.
Board members, questions or comments? You guys, great job. I love the enthusiasm about geography. Keep studying.
Do you want to talk?
Anyone? Matt?
I was just going to say thank you for coming and sharing your success story with us, both you and the two before you. We sit up here trying to make decisions that positively affect our school system, but we're not in the schools, so we don't always get to see what goes on a daily basis. So it's really nice when you can come in and show us what you're doing, especially when you've been so successful. And just thank you for making Wethersfield proud and for doing well in school and in geography and chemistry.
Anyone?
Does anybody have a film of any of these competitions that we could ever put on Facebook or in our website?
Of the competitions, no, I don't believe there are film. There are definitely pictures. The only film we have of is Mrs. Troy announcing to Oliver and Noah when they won, which was featured prominently on YouTube
I
and
think
Blue
I
Eagle
saw
News.
that. I did. I saw that.
Yes, my apologies.
Congratulations to all of you. You really are bringing the school to life for us here. Thank you.
And the next success that we want to celebrate is our Euro Challenge team with Mr. Mosier and Mr. Sand.
I pledge allegiance. No. Okay. I'm Jeff Mosier, teach social studies at the high school. The Euro Challenge, first of all, I'll explain what it is. The Euro Challenge is a competition, a national competition run by the European Union in coordination with some organizations in the U.S. to improve the knowledge of the European Union among American high school students. And it's a nationwide organization, a nationwide competition. We take part in the New York City region, and we put together a team of 10th graders, 5 10th graders who start working at the beginning of the year and then present their efforts in the spring. We're actually getting started again this year with a different group, not these guys. Basically what happens is they pick a topic about the European Union, a challenge that they have to focus in on, and then a country that we focus in on, and you make a 15-minute presentation which in front of a panel of experts in New York City. And it's quite good. And I'm going to let Mr. Sand say a little bit more about it.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah, just imagine yourself when you're 15 years old, in your business attire, getting on a train, going into New York City, going into the Wells Fargo building, $150 billion company, with teams from all over the country. And these kids, who are the nicest kids in the world, and they get into the competition and the game face is on. And we heard this presentation dozens of times, and it was absolutely flawless. So we sat there, and Jeff and I did, and you know, they're getting grilled by representatives from the European Union, corporation people, academics from universities, and I don't think we knew half of the answers, but they knew them all. And they were just fantastic kids. And if you pull out our vision of the graduate, you know, there's 4 pictures of it right there. And Maggie couldn't be here tonight. So the other thing I want to say, I want to thank Siobhan. She supported us through the whole thing. We'd never had to go back for the finals before, so getting 4th in the country was exciting, and our department head, Kim Nemec, too. So I think you probably want to hear from the kids, so.
Hello, my name is Kaylee. I know I definitely enjoyed the experience a lot. Mr. Sand and Mr. Mojer were just amazing to do it with. And I just remember when we heard that we'd made it into the top 5, just like looking at my friends and making eye contact and like, oh my God, it was like so amazing. And I know we definitely all acquired a lot of skills from doing this presentation. I know the first thing that came to most of our minds was how we became a lot better at doing our own independent research. For example, we had to learn a lot of this content on our own time and teach it all to ourselves, so that was just a really valuable skill to have. And I know we all definitely improved a lot in our public speaking skills after giving this presentation time over time over time. And lastly, I know we all became a lot better at teamwork and cooperation just because we're just a group of 5 people, so we all became really good at bouncing off of each other and working together.
Hello, my name is Marcos. Very nervous to be here today, and also a lot of officials, but the only thing I'm missing that's different from the Euro Challenge is a suit jacket and a tie. I've come here today just to tell you specifically about what we learned in the Euro Challenge. When we made our presentation, we specifically spoke on the country of Latvia and reducing its energy dependence on Russia. In our time in the Euro Challenge, coming every Friday afternoon, right, where we all want to be home for the weekend, but we're putting in our work, and we learned a lot about the makeup of the European Union and its purpose, as well as the economics and some of the politics of its member countries. And for us, it was Latvia. Overall, it was a great experience to learn about Europe. I know in history it's either U.S. history or international studies, so we don't often get to dive deep into history or current events in places other than America. So overall, it's just a great opportunity to learn about Europe, and as well as the economies of Europe. So yeah, thank you.
Hi, my name is Ava. This experience was absolutely amazing. I think I can speak for all of us to say we're just very grateful for the opportunity. And we just loved working together with our amazing advisors, and getting to know each other better was definitely amazing. And we became more familiar with each other. We actually worked on the project outside of school. We ended up meeting outside of school at my house just to work on it and really get comfortable with the material. And just sightseeing in New York was just a great opportunity. We were able to see the Little Island, the High Line, Times Square, and the Vessel, which I didn't even know existed. So it was really, really a great opportunity. And we also went to Chelsea Market, and to see all the different culture and all the different food there, as a group, we ended up splitting off and then coming back together, and just to have a break from the actual competition was great, just a great bonding experience. And then to also have that rigorous educational component of it was really, really great. And we just loved learning about conflicts in other countries. We picked Latvia, so that was a country that we don't really study a lot in school. We got to dive deeper into that country. And we were provided an opportunity to think critically and learn about topics that aren't necessarily talked about in school. We split into 2 portions of our team. So we had our economics portion, which was Marcos and Kaylee, and then Angie was both sides of that, and Maggie and I worked on the policies to fix whatever problem that we were trying to solve. So overall, just very grateful for the opportunity and can't wait to see what happens this year. Thank you.
This is so impressive.
Hello, my name is Angelica. So a lot of my teammates, so my teammates, they all pinpoint on mainly everything that I'm just going to wrap up on. But overall, it was an incredible experience. We really pushed ourselves. We really got pushed outside of our comfort zone. Even traveling to New York and being in front of a different audience and figuring out how to take our strengths, but really take that 21st century skill of teamwork and putting it together. It was nerve-wracking at first, and it still is sometimes, but I think it really shaped us into becoming better at public speaking, better as people as well. And I know Ava talked about it. We did meet outside of school a lot, in addition to meeting every Friday after school. It took a lot of hard work and determination, but we also had one another and we supported one another. Again, we had incredible advisors. And at the end, too, when we were figuring out that we made it this far, it was incredible to achieve it to that point, but it's because we were there together, and we really did become great friends, and I feel like we were a really great team in general, too, so I'm really grateful for it, and it is definitely a memorable and unforgettable experience. Thank you.
That's great.
Just to add, we've done this for about 12 years, John and I, and this is the second time we've gone to the second round, the first time we ever went to the final round. And these kids were fantastic. I mean, to finish fourth in the whole country was, well, it was a surprise to us, but quite a few surprises, but it was great. So a very, very talented team.
Two things. Number one, you can see why they did so well, right? And number two, the age cutoff is sophomores, so they can't do it again. So I didn't want you to think that we're dumping them for next year. So, but hopefully they're going to come back and advise next year's team. So.
This is great.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes, Dr. Regan-Lefebvre.
This is a phenomenal achievement, and I'm really proud of all of you. Well done. And it's clear that your skills in research, analysis, and communication were probably already there, but were really honed through this process. You were very articulate. I'm a little sad to hear Marco say that the kind of international aspect is somewhat lacking in the curriculum, just because Wethersfield is a town where there are dozens of languages spoken. It's actually so culturally diverse and rich, and we should really be celebrating that. I'm sorry you can't do it again next year. I don't know, does Wethersfield High School have a Model United Nations team?
We do.
Yeah, if you like this, you probably love Model UN, and I hope you'll continue to work on building these skills and to share your expertise with others.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Riley.
Well, I think for all four groups, it was a great learning experience. It was a growth opportunity requiring teamwork and cooperation. And, I think it's a testament to Siobhan for, encouraging these events. And, that comes from the top. So thank you. And thank all of the students. Great job.
Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Cassio.
Thank you. Congratulations. It's good to see you all here. I saw you when you were in 8th grade at the middle school. Proud of you. Keep up the good work. One of the couple of things that you came out with was bonding with all the groups, as well as stepping out of your comfort zone. I think that is the key element to find out what your next steps are going to be. And you come from different walks, different families, different cultures, and you became friends. I think that's the key element behind all of this. Thank you, teachers. Thank you, parents. Good job. And we started with the Eagle Way, and it seems as if it's the right way. So continue the right path, and congratulations to all of you. Great jobs.
Thank you. Anyone else? All right, thank you, guys. Thank you, Mr. Sands, Mr.
So that is all for us tonight. I just
sure?
want to.
You got no more?
I could keep going if you want me to. But I think what you got to see tonight is just the privilege that I have of being the principal of Wethersfield High School and all of the great things that are happening. And while these are outstanding examples, all of these things are happening every day in our classrooms. And so we hope to continue to open those doors and allow you to see and hear what is really going on at Wethersfield High School, because it is amazing. And so these kids are amazing because of the teachers that they have. And so really, the kudos does go to all of them. I am there, but really, it wouldn't happen without them. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you, yeah.
All right, we'll wait till the screen goes up. And will anyone leave who doesn't want to stay? It's usually really riveting, though.
We need to do, Michael, we need to do more of that. That was fabulous. Are you the board ambassador?
All right, moving on to board comment. Anyone on the board wishing to make comment? Ms. Granato?
I have the minutes for the Keene for Kids, which started again this year. On September 14th, we had our first meeting, and Keene for Kids basically does so much for our school system and in the elementary schools for our after-school program, so a lot of details here. Caroline Facina, who's the director of the Keene after-school program, gave a report on the fall activities. She informed us that 735 enrollments are in for the 63 programs offered. There are 21 more activities added for this year, and many being athletic programs. Also, the Hartford Stage Company has been hired to work in all 5 elementary schools with a performance by each school sometime this year. So more to come on those dates. There's also a new coding without computers course and another course edition, Architects in Practice. This year, there's an increase to 12 scholarships available for Keene on Kids for each school for their activities. And the Keene Foundation has applied for a state grant for an afternoon program, after-school afternoon program for our young ELL learners. These monies will provide 4-time weekly after-school class that will provide snack, homework help, movement, enrichment, and family engagement. The objective of the program is to provide language support in both academic and social situations. And Keene for Kids will continue their hands-on science in the elementary schools, in every grade in the elementary schools, and it has proved to be an exciting addition to our science curriculum. We also heard from Youth Services, the Health Department, our Wethersfield Library, and we received info on our preschool and playgroup programs organized at the Community Center. This collaborative works for our kids academically, socially, and for recreational opportunities. Social Services gave away 400 backpacks and school supplies as the school year began. And they are now gearing up for the holidays. They are working on energy assistance, Thanksgiving food distribution, holiday gift giving, and very importantly, Social Services provides the food bank for our town and can always use donations. And finally, on Tuesday, October 20th, the Salute to Business held its annual event. Awards were presented by the Economic Development and Improvement Commission to people, organizations, and businesses that are valuable contributors to Wethersfield. And we were also pleased to see the fire department, our library, and others honored, and the special Betty Rosanna Award given to Judy Keene for her incredible work with the Keene Foundation in our town. So congratulations to all of them and to Judy Keene. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Dr. Egan Lefebvre?
Thank you. I'd like to start by wishing a belated Happy New Year to anybody who is celebrating Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. I hope you had a easy and meaningful fast. Second, I'd like to remark on the fact that we have 30 people in the audience tonight. And that is so exciting. We've had months of board meetings without a single member of the public showing up. So it's really wonderful to see so many people here. I believe the reason most people are here is because they want to hear about the Colliers assessment. There are 2 opportunities for board comment at our meetings, and we're not allowed to engage in any back and forth during board comment, but we are all listening. I think what happened with the last referendum is that although the board was transparent, it didn't do a lot of outreach, and transparency and outreach are not the same thing. We can have all our information publicly available, but let's face it, most voters are really busy, and it's hard to track down that information, especially if you're unfamiliar with some of the town websites and other tools. So I'm excited to hear this report and to have discussions about how we move forward, and I hope that as we move forward, it will include a serious outreach plan to reach voters, especially those affected by our crumbling schools.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Roberts.
I'd just like to add to what Dr. Lefebvre said, that it's outreach to the community for the next referendum, which we hope will be happening soon, but it's also involvement and ownership and investment in what the decisions will ultimately be made.
Thank you. Mr. Riley.
Well, I'll get off topic a little bit for a moment. The first football game was against Southington, and that was September 17th. I went to that. There was an open house at Emerson Williams on September 19th. There was a band exhibition in the high school gym September 23rd, and there is a competition against Rocky Hill for the band coming up this Saturday. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Ms. Dunn, do you have anything to report from the high school?
Oh, yeah, I do. So it's been a great kickoff to this new school year at WHS, on which we discussed first day the Eagle Way, but students enjoyed kickball games, field games, teacher dunk tanks, a petting zoo, and more. Also, the WHS community has gotten accustomed to the school's new Smart Pass system, a hall pass app that allows students and teachers to make digital passes when students need to leave the classroom. Another new development is the phone caddies, where students park their phones at the start of class. They've proven helpful in eliminating the distraction of phone use during class time. Fall sports have also begun, and there's a lot more to look forward to. The football team will have their next game against Berlin this Friday. Girls swim and dive won their meet against rival team Glastonbury last Tuesday, which was their first win against Glastonbury in 6 years. Field hockey won their first 2 games against Suffield and Avon and are taking on Wallingford tonight. The new WHS Captains Council is a time during weekly WeConnect where sports captains and other student leaders discuss how to best represent the school both on and off the team. Also, the fall play, Bloody Murder, is in the works, which with dates set for November 16th to 19th. And a number of clubs have also kicked off. On Thursday the 14th, we had open house where Eagle Crew was there to help guide parents around the school. And all in all, we've had a great transition to the new school year.
Thank you. Great update. All right, moving on to approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the September 12th, 2023 regularly scheduled meeting minutes?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments? Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you. Public comment. Anyone in the public wishing to make comment, please come to the podium, state your name and your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Nick Rashu, 125 Walcott Hill. First, I want to make a comment about the prior referendum. I was not misinformed, uninformed, or underinformed, and I still voted no. I think blaming voters for them not understanding something is the wrong way to go about it. The rhetoric I watched in this meeting after that referendum failed blamed the voters because they didn't know what they were doing. They had no idea. There wasn't outreach. They didn't understand the numbers. I think they did. I think you're not giving enough credit to voters when it's due. Secondly, I'd like to ask Colliers, if they're here, which I'm assuming they are, am I missing 19 pages of the report? Or is this a full report or no?
That's not the full report.
All right, I'd like to request for the board here, there was a 19-page document issued on October 22nd of 2018, draft for discussion.
that listed out every project and dollar amount associated with it. What I'd like to do is I'd like to look at that and figure out which of those projects from 2018 have actually been done. Seeing an increase from 30.1 million to 50.2 million doesn't tell the whole story. Does that mean nothing happened in 5 years? If that does, I think there's a department in this town that should be held to task, which hasn't been done, to my understanding. Secondly, looking at these numbers, looking at the increases, I could accept inflation for some of them, and this is with the presumption that no work was done at all by physical services over the past 5 years. Emerson Williams is a 44% increase from that 31.7. Hanmer, 34% increase. Highcrest, 42% increase. Webb, 63% increase. And then Charles Wright, the school that everybody wanted to rip down, 132% increase from 2018's report to today. That is abhorrent. The fact that things have been going that poorly and that no one's decided to do anything. There were line items on those 19 pages for $1,000. No one could find the money. I was here fully supporting, Tom was there actually, the deputy mayor, I supported the education budget. It's not physical services, I get it, but I cannot believe that there wasn't $1 spent found somewhere that any of those projects could have been addressed. I think this report, based on what we have in front of us, as a conversation topic, I think there's more missing than what's in here, and that's why I asked if the full report's here, because if it's not, I don't think this report is ready for discussion yet. 132% increase in those expenditures is shocking to me. Secondarily, what I didn't see in here, what I didn't see back in 2018, and what I didn't really see in the referendum, what was the timeline? We heard 10 years, $279 million, we'll bond it now. Well, with interest rates and inflation going the way they were, guess what? That 279, I bet you'd be over 400 by now. I didn't see a timeline in 2018. $31.7 million was a dollar spent. No one can answer that question. Here we are, $50.2 million. Let's say it goes to referendum, we bond it. When's the money going to get spent? Is there a schedule? Is anybody from physical services here? Can anybody actually address that? All I've seen is enough information to have a quick discussion to say voters are uninformed, voters are misinformed, and voters are uninformed.
Anyone else from the public wishing to make comment, please come to the podium, state your name and address. You have 5 minutes.
Hi, Angela Egan. I'm a parent of 2 children at the elementary school. I'm also speaking as an educator myself. I'm an acceleration specialist and an instructional coach with East Hartford Public Schools. I have a question first. Can I ask a question? Can I ask a question?
There's no discussion.
No discussion. Awesome. Well, currently, I know Wethersfield is currently using Readers and Writers Workshop for their literacy instruction. I'm a concerned parent because we are currently using practices at the elementary level that are not aligned with the science of reading and aligned with scientific practices with how students learn to read. Currently, I'm not sure how many parents are familiar with this, but currently our students are being taught to read with looking at pictures, a love for reading. However, when you have almost 50% of your 3rd graders who are not reaching benchmark on state testing, most of these kids can't read because we are not giving them the foundational skills. If we go back and we take a look at the mission statement for the Board of Education, it's to ensure a strong foundation of knowledge and core skills. We are not doing it for our students at the elementary level, and it's carrying over to middle school and at the high school level. We had open house this past, last week, and then I've also reached out to several the curriculum specialist in town, and I've reached out to principals as well with this concern because we are not aligned with the research. And what's currently happening in our classrooms is our students are being told they have to sit there and read for 25, 30 minutes, like build up that reading stamina, but you don't have the tools and the strategies to actually learn how to read. Research shows that students should be taught to read using a explicit, systematic approach, which means they should be receiving direct instruction, started with the most basic skills of letter naming, letter sounds, and then progressing through the phonics continuum, ultimately reaching to etymology, which they ultimately wouldn't read until middle school. Our students are not receiving any explicit direct instruction. As I spoke to my own children, their teachers last week, and I actually created my own program, Structured Literacy Platform, and I offered this to the teachers at my student school, and they were like, hey, I'd love to use it, but we're not allowed to because the district has to be in alignment. I don't know that the district is going to be looking at programs. What does that mean? I don't know. They may have put a waiver in to continue to use Lucy Crockin's Reading Writers Workshop, and that means that our students currently are not going to be receiving explicit instruction. My son and daughter, they can read. My son, his spelling is awful, and from parents across the board, I'm hearing the same thing because their students have not been explicitly taught how to connect the graphemes and phonemes. This is a problem. Parents do not want to come and live in Wethersfield because they've heard that our special education programs are not well, and I can speak to that because as an acceleration specialist, I have parents coming to me. If you take a look at an IEP of a student at the elementary level, you're going to notice that this is a student that currently goes to school at Highcrest. His goals as a student with dyslexia are, I can read words with long vowel patterns, I can read multisyllabic words, I can read words with diphthongs, I can read words with digraph and blends. What? Crazy. Those educators, and it's not their fault, I say know better, do better. They do not understand the phonics continuum. They do not understand how to target and personalize instruction. If we go back to the mission, it says that we provide personalized instruction to our students. We are not doing that. We are expecting our students to learn to read with lots of fluff, and I know some people may say they're against that, but 40% of kids scientifically can learn to read no matter how you give instruction, deliver instruction. However, there's 60% of students that need explicit, systematic instruction. Our teachers don't have that knowledge. Our teachers do not have the resources to provide that instruction. Another parent came to me, Mrs. Egan, my daughter's really struggling. So they said back in the spring that they're gonna put her part of SRBI. They started working with her. Okay, great. So over the summer, I put her in touch with another teacher at that school who's going to tutor her. She says she needs to focus on comprehension. What? A first grader focus on comprehension? A first grader who can't decode beyond CVC words? No, we do not. That's not how we teach literacy instruction. A student falls on the continuum, and from where that student is, you provide explicit instruction to move them along the continuum. No child should be exiting from that phonics continuum until they're studying root word origins and really digging deep into comprehension, which they can't do until they have a strong foundation. And then once again, currently parents in town. My son or daughter is a third grade, fourth grade student. They can't comprehend. Why can't they comprehend? We are not teaching them explicit strategies to monitor comprehension. We are not teaching them explicit strategies to use comprehension strategies and skills in the classroom. We're expecting them to sit there and read, and they sit there and read. Why do we have behaviors in classrooms? Well, because these kids are expected to do things they haven't been taught to do. This is a real problem. This is a problem. It's not just in Wethersfield. Across the state, they're battling this problem as well, but know better, do better. We know what works, and as a parent, I will come here every meeting until we put something into place, because it's not okay for me as a parent to be working in one district where we are so focused with following the research and have my kids go to a school in a district that is so far removed from the research. And when I speak to educators, parents...
So if you can wrap it up, your 5 minutes.
Yep, this is a big problem, and I will come back and talk if I have to, and then I would love to follow up. But this is a problem that's not going to go away until something is done.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public?
Hi, my name is Carrie Hill. I live at 117 Randy Lane. I have three children that attend the Webb and Highcrest elementary schools. I myself attended Highcrest. I loved my time there as an elementary student, and I can speak fondly of music classes on the stage, whole school assemblies in the cafeteria, and library classes in the media center. I don't ever remember coming home and telling my parents that, my friend almost slipped today coming out of the music room because there's a puddle on the floor from the roof leaking, or that I couldn't see my brother during an assembly because the whole school doesn't fit in the cafeteria. Now I'm disheartened, disappointed, and disgusted with the upkeep of our schools. To think that a Highcrest kindergarten classroom in the front of the school has had caution tape on its exterior doors since the first day of school is unacceptable. Why? Why does it take the town so long to fix critical safety features in our schools? On September 14th, during a facilities and maintenance meeting, our Director of Physical Services mentioned that Physical Services Department uses a checklist to assess our buildings. Does the Board of Ed know what's on that checklist? Why is it acceptable for our students to attend these schools where the exterior walls are crumbling, the doors aren't fixed, the roofs are constantly leaking, and sparks are flying out of outlets? Some members of this board have even mentioned on record that they have not set foot in an elementary school. Yet those same board members are voting on the building health and safety issues that are impacting our educators and students every second of every day they're in those buildings. Please come and tour the buildings to see what you're being creative in doing more with less is actually doing in the schools. I know Colliers is going to be reporting its findings in a little while, and while the slides that I previewed ahead of time provided some helpful information, I'm hoping that Colliers and the boards can answer the following questions. How much of the estimate is for replacing structures and fixtures that would be torn down if we go to the referendum and new buildings are constructed? How much of the $18 million increase since 2018 is from inflation, and how much of it is from additional findings? What's the timeline for addressing the priority 1 issues? What are the health and safety code violations? And are exterior lighting improvements going to happen anytime soon? Because I know at Highcrest, leaving open house the other night, I was walking in pitch blackness to my car. Hopefully the Board of Ed can address these questions. What deferred maintenance has been addressed since 2018 in that assessment, and how much has been spent? Why is the $1.5 million roof repair allocation spent over 7 years when there's new leaks happening every day since the school has started? And the $74,000 that was used for the ARPA funds on the roof consultant report, does that include 10-gallon buckets to collect the water from the leaks that the students are seeing every day? We've been kicking the can down the road for far too long. Dinner table conversations should not include questions about, was the door fixed today? Where did it leak today? Oh, you couldn't use that bathroom because it's out of order? Oh, the outlets were sparking? I want to hear my children come home and discuss the whole school assembly they attended, or the library projects they're getting to do in the media center. Please, I encourage this board to collaborate with the town council and prioritize and address the critical health and safety issues of our schools while working toward a plan that's going to build new schools that our students, educators, staff, and members of this community deserve and can be proud of.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wishing to make comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Mr. Emmett, Communications.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. Good evening, everyone. I want to provide everybody with a health update first and foremost. To date, Elda Marcelinas, our nurse supervisor, has reported that we've had 32 cases of COVID among staff and students. We continue to follow the CDC guidelines for isolation, and the DPH and CSDE recently gave an update in regards to influenza, COVID, and RSV. Vaccinations are available for both flu and COVID, and RSV vaccines are available for people over the age of 60 and pregnant women. Nurses in the buildings continue to stress the importance of staying home when you're sick, and this information has been communicated via Parent Square to parents throughout the district. Nurses report that they do have a limited supply of test kits in their offices. We received these from the Central Connecticut Health District. Please note that the federal government is also offering up free test kits as well, so there's a process online that you can go and get tests for your family. The nurse supervisors from Newington, Berlin, Rocky Hill, and Wethersfield are meeting with the CCHD tomorrow to collaborate and to go over our operational procedures and perhaps develop standardized protocol areas across the health district as we head into the cooler months and we see the number of illnesses increase. Again, I want to give a huge shout out to our nurses for being on the front line of making sure that our kids and our staff members are safe. This evening you have an action item before you. It is the Youth Voices Count Survey. Those of you who have been on the board have seen this item before. We do this every 2 years. The survey has been offered to middle and high school students every 2 years, and the data gained from this survey assists the district and also the Youth Services Department in the pursuit of grant funding. Erica Teixeira and Bonnie Smith are here this evening to provide an overview of this work. Very happy to report that not yet close. Very happy to report that the Wellness Center at Silas Deane Middle School will be opening next week. Okay. We are working on communication to staff and to students. We have the space set up, so I'm very happy to report through the grant funds, actually, some of the data we used to attain that grant came from the Youth Voices Count survey. So we will have that up and running starting next week. Also want to give everybody an update on technology. You've heard me talk about the fact that we are continuously hit with attempted intrusions. On Friday, we were dealing with periodic outages of the internet service across the district last Friday as well as yesterday. We had 10 to 15 minute time periods where we would lose our internet. I can imagine, Mary, for you at the high school, it was rather frustrating. It certainly was for us at Stillman as well. So Jim DeRegan, who was our network engineer, both for the school district as well as the town, worked with our internet provider, CEN, to fortify the firewall and come up with new protocols to stop this intrusion. We had several intrusions yesterday morning. I'm pleased to report that today, although there were multiple attempts, the firewall was able to parse those out and they did not impact our operations today. Also want to give you an update with regard to some news that came out today that may impact us for breakfast and lunch for the next school year. The USDA announced today that they are changing the guidelines under the community eligibility provision from 40% down to 25%. What that will likely do is give us additional students that will be eligible for free and reduced lunch next year. So we are awaiting additional guidelines coming from the state. So we're hopeful that we will be able to continue to provide free breakfast and lunch for all of our students next year. I'll have more information forthcoming as we receive additional information from the federal government. And I do want to remind everyone that next Wednesday will be our first early dismissal day of the year. It is a professional development day for both elementary and secondary, so we will be on a minimum day schedule next Wednesday. And with that, it's communications.
Thank you, Mr. Emmett. Moving on to action items. Mr. Castillo, I believe you have a motion for us?
Yes, I do. Tonight, I have the motion to move that the Wethersfield Board of Education support the administration of the Youth Voices Count Survey to Wethersfield High School and Silas Deane Middle School in collaboration with the town of Wethersfield.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Discussion, Mr. Emmett.
Yes, we have now Erica and Bonnie coming forward to provide an overview.
Sir? All set?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you. So good evening, Board of Education members and Superintendent Emmett. My name is Erica Texera. I'm the Assistant Director of Social Youth and Senior Services for the town of Wethersfield. I'm also joined here tonight by Michelle Waterman, our Prevention Coordinator, and also Bonnie Smith, our Youth Voices Count Survey Consultant. We come before you tonight to share with the Board of Education our department's proposal to once again administer the online and confidential Youth Voices Count Survey during school time to all 7th through 12th graders that attend Silas Deane Middle School and Wethersfield High School. The Youth Voices Count Survey produces data that strengthens local planning to address youth behavioral health issues, as well as competitive data-driven grant applications. The data collected in 2019 and 2021 supported the highly competitive Drug-Free Communities grant application. I'm excited to report that Social and Youth Services, in conjunction with the Wethersfield Youth Advisory Board, also known as our We Hope Coalition, which stands for Wethersfield Helping Others Through Prevention and Education, was awarded this grant in 2021, and it will continue now for the next 2 years, with the ability to apply for another 5 years after that. The Drug-Free Communities Grant financially supports biannual assessments, data collection, and analysis. This tool helps us determine not only what prevention programs we need to be providing to the youth in Wethersfield, but also what educational programs we need to be providing to parents and the community at large. Data collected from student surveys can be used in the planning and development of strategies, policies, and practices not only within our department, but also within the school district. We could also see the data benefiting the community at large in numerous ways. Parents informed about current use trends may become more actively engaged in addressing and identified issues. Students may want to be involved in designing and implementing programs to address at-risk behaviors. Youth-serving agencies within Wethersfield can use the data to improve their own programs and services. By conducting this survey, Social and Youth Services is looking to solicit student input and perspective regarding substance use and at-risk behaviors to use the data to best guide our future planning. In the past years, Wethersfield, along with many other towns, including Meriden, Manchester, Vernon, Wolcott, Hebron, Marlborough, have all conducted the same survey and found results to be favorable. We are looking to hire Bonnie Smith from B. Whalen Smith Consulting, LLC, to administer the survey, once again, because of our positive work history and their experience in conducting youth needs assessment surveys. Bonnie Smith is here tonight and will be able to answer any specific questions. The implementation is a 4-step process that will be conducted in the same way we've done in the past. Step 1 is parent communication. A letter will go out to all parents informing them that this is an anonymous youth needs assessment survey that will be administered to all 7th through 12th graders. The letter will indicate that some of the questions may be sensitive, that the survey is completely confidential, and the survey copies will be available for parents to look at prior to their child taking it. Where questions and concerns should be directed, as well as providing parents with the options of having their child opt out of the survey if needed. Step 2 would be conducting the survey. Social and Youth Services will work with the school administrators and staff to determine which dates the survey will be conducted in each school. We have already started conversations with staff regarding the technical aspect of administering an online survey. The day of the survey, teachers will be provided with a script to read to the students before they start the online survey. The survey is approximately 20 minutes long. Students do not need to answer every question, and as a reminder, the survey is anonymous. Step 3 would be the data analysis. Our hired consultant, Bonnie, will spend the next couple of months analyzing the data. And step 4 is report and presentation. Once the data has been analyzed, Social and Youth Service will be providing a draft report and PowerPoint presentations regarding the key findings. We would invite school district staff to review the draft report and key findings with us. Once the draft is finalized, we would then do a presentation with the final results to the Board of Ed. And in conclusion, the results of the survey will guide the Wethersfield Department of Social and Youth Services and the Youth Advisory Board as we plan and provide prevention programs for our youth and promote overall community awareness. We appreciate you allowing us to come here tonight and share an overview of the youth survey process. And we provided some baggies with goodie swag for our We Hope Coalition for all of you. And Bonnie, did you have anything you wanted to add? No. Okay. So now we'll just take questions.
Thank you so much. Any board members with questions? Mr. Riley?
I know you mentioned that I think step 3 would take a couple months. What is the time frame from beginning to end, roughly?
Hi, we estimate 6 to 8 weeks, but in truth, our turnaround time is usually about 3.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Ms. Drew.
I just wanted to, so I went through the surveys and I wanted to say thank you for putting those little pictures of the cat saying you can do this. It was a very lengthy one, so I was like, yes, I'm almost at the end. But I have a question in regards to the bullying. So in the high school, there's only 2 questions. However, in the middle school section, there's like an additional 3 or 4 questions. And I wanted to know what the reason was for not including those in the high school portion, because I feel like they would be pretty beneficial.
Can I ask, Ms. Drew, did you preview it online or in the PDF?
In the PDF.
Okay, I'm going to have to look closely at that because there should be parallel between the 2.
Right, that was the only one that didn't have, I think there were 5 questions in the middle school portion, and there were only 2 in the high school portion.
Okay, thank you for bringing that up. I'm going to check it.
Okay.
Anyone else? Yes, Ms. Granado.
Just a question on the questions. Do you change them as time goes on? Like now, social media has become an emotional piece of our students as they go along through school. And also, you know, we hear so much in the news about so many things that are dangerous for our students.
So that's a great question. We play with the emerging issues as well as ensuring that the tool is comparable year to year. So every 24 months, in fact, this June of 2024, myself and a cadre of colleagues will sit down together and look through the survey and determine what can possibly be removed and what might need to be altered slightly, with the greatest emphasis on not changing our ability to look at trend.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Regan-Lefebvre.
Thank you. I found the results of the survey helpful in the past, and I'm glad that we're using it to apply for further grant funding. Can I just confirm that voting to administer the survey is cost neutral for the board budget?
Correct. It'll be covered by our Drug-Free Communities grant. Mhm.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing none with a motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. We'll give it a second to put the screens back up.
Thank you very much. Have a
Thank
good
you.
evening.
Thank you.
Or does it have to go back down for this?
We can keep it down.
Keep it down.
We can keep it
Thank
down,
you,
Jim.
sorry. Discussion items, announcement and information, check your packets. If you can't make a committee meeting, please let the committee chair know. And moving on to 2023 Wethersfield Public School Facilities Conditions Assessment by Colliers. Mr. Emmett.
Thank you, Mr. Carey. This evening, we have Mr. Jonathan Winokur, representative from Colliers International, who will be providing a overview of the facilities assessment that Colliers completed over the course of this summer. This is the updated facilities assessment. We did an original facilities assessment back in 2018, so this is the most up-to-date. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Winokur.
Thank you. I think we just need a minute for the screen to come on this side. We're good?
Just for us.
Okay.
It's a great picture.
I assume we can see it over here?
No, not anymore.
Until you said it.
I didn't do it?
We have a good light bulb though for once.
No signal then.
I think when you turn that one on and shut that one off. Something like that.
All presentations.
There it is.
Okay. And to advance it, the red arrow? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much. I'm pleased to be here and to give an update to the findings from 2018 that were reassessed most recently. In terms of agenda, there was a lot of talk, certainly a lot of interest, and thank you all for being here to watch this. This is a pretty high-level update I've been asked to provide. Detail of the findings have been presented to the board, to the superintendent and the team, so that information is not being presented tonight, but I'll describe some of the key findings and the elements of this study. So I'm going to go through those findings, talk about it, and talk about potential next steps. In terms of just the process overall, this study looked solely at the elementary schools. We didn't look at middle and high schools. And by the way, the high school students and staff were great today. That's always really nice to see the outcome of this. And so, again, we're focusing exclusively on the 5 elementary schools and the findings there. The identification process happened over this last summer of 2023, and as I said, this is an update to the analysis that was done in 2018. We had teams out on site at each of the schools looking at the major building elements, teams looking at the exterior of the building, the interior of the building from an architectural finish major building system standpoint. We had folks with MEP, mechanical, electrical, plumbing backgrounds, looking at the HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems, electrical systems, plumbing systems, as well as folks looking at code-related issues, whether safety, statutory, or ADA compliance issues. In total, it was around 280,000 square feet of space that's within these 5 buildings. And we did focus not on modernization, this is really important, but just on deferred maintenance, so repairing the existing buildings in their current state. So these are essentially projects that are due, and are due either from a lack of funding or a lack of available resources, time to address them. In total, we identified over 300 individual projects, and that project list is available, as I said, but I'm not going to get into that level of detail with this. Each project that was identified was not only described and given a cost estimate for the total cost of completion based upon our experience with similar projects, but also a priority, a relative priority or urgency of need was identified associated with it. So they were given 3 priorities, a priority 1 being the most urgent of the needs, in our opinion. They should be addressed within the next 3 years. They're usually having to do with protecting the asset itself, keeping water from intruding further into the space, making sure that the educational program can be delivered within the space appropriately, or some sort of code regulatory upgrade that should be addressed, in our opinion, in the very near future. Priority 2 projects are also important projects, and in our opinion, relative to the others, should be addressed within a 5-year time horizon in an ideal situation. They're important, they're certainly coming due, but do not have the same immediate detrimental impact on program or asset value as priority 1. And priority 3 are things that we just need to be aware of. They're coming, but they can be deferred beyond the 5 years. It should be noted for this group and for some of the commentary that came about earlier, we've done many of these studies throughout the country, and no one has the money immediately available to address everything that we're going to be talking about today. It's just unlikely. Yale was the only institution, if you remember, about 20 years ago, they identified $1 billion worth of need, and they were able to roll out $1 billion program to start to address that. But even now, they're doing a new $4 billion deferred maintenance program. Milton Hershey School, the wealthiest independent school in the world, we delivered $50 million deferred maintenance need back in 1990 around, and when we delivered it, to our shock, they said, okay, let's fund it, let's go. That's the level of money it takes to be able to address everything in an ideal situation. Just wanted to give that context. I know it doesn't necessarily help, but I think it's always important for people to understand that. In 2018, there were many projects that were identified, and this is really small on the screen here, and I don't get to see that, so I'm going to have to take a cheat sheet here. We had $31.7 million of total need, and you can see how it falls across the 3 priorities, $17 million of priority 1, and then the $10 million of priority 2. And now, as we see the findings, and you all are aware from the packets that you've received, that total has increased to $50 million. So it's an $18.5 million increase over this 5-year period of time. Priority 1 has grown pretty significantly from 17 million to 21, but the biggest increase almost threefold in priority 2, where it's gone from 10 million to 27 million. So this is certainly largely impacted by simply inflation. Well, I guess the largest impact is there has not been any significant capital infusion to address the projects originally identified. So the projects have remained on the list that were originally noted in 2018. 2, we've had an incredible inflationary run on construction costs over the last 5 years. So that simple fact alone, where we had double-digit increases, contributes a very significant amount to this overall. And then 3, deferred maintenance by definition is a byproduct of the continued deterioration of the building itself. Obviously, a school building is very heavily used. You've got a lot of students, hundreds of students, faculty, staff, members of the public who are in these spaces on a daily basis, and so they get worn out. They need repairs. They need to have carpets replaced, tiles replaced, doors that break from use, etc. So that happens. Another slide that's not in your original packet, but I thought this might be helpful as I was thinking about telling the story, is just, again, understanding the ages of these buildings, because age is a significant element in understanding deferred maintenance. So from a simple reality, the buildings on average are almost 60 years old. The baby of the bunch, I think, is Wright, which was built in 1972, and that's 51 years old, and the oldest is Emerson Williams, which is 71 years old, built in 1952. We know from a simple construction standpoint, and I believe all of you know, thinking about your houses, that the most important elements, the roofs, the walls, the windows, the doors, they will last typically 20 to 30 years. Beyond that point in time, they've worn beyond their useful lifespan, and they need to be replaced or repaired in some significant fashion. There's other elements certainly that wear out a lot faster: carpets, painting, doorknobs, faucets, those sorts of things. So in a typical life cycle of buildings, to keep deferred maintenance and to keep the spaces modernized, unless they go through a major refresh every 25 to 30 years, then the deferred maintenance, the conditions, the obsolescence of those elements is going to be beyond its useful life. A few pictures to help tell the story. I believe you all are familiar with these. But again, I think the visuals can always aid in this. This first batch is from Hamner. You can see the roof. I don't know how well it shows up on this, but I just tried to do a blow up of the roof section. You can see the bubbling up top. This is going to lead, this is obviously a photo of a failure that's systemic in the building. The roofs of all the buildings were in really bad shape and are very high priority replacements. The sink, you can see it just, again, it just, I think visually tells you the age of the building. I mean, this is obviously a space that's very old and worn. It's not to say that that sink doesn't work. It's just to, again, show that the infrastructure, the plumbing, the piping feeding that sink, the waste lines, they're all deteriorated and in need of replacement. The windows, that picture to the bottom right is what's called a fan coil unit. These are individual room heating and ventilation systems. They're frankly the least desirable system that could be put in a building. They're the least expensive, which is why they're in so many school buildings. There are maintenance problems. They tend to freeze up. They have individual components in them that don't work so well. They tend to not provide very good ventilation. They're noisy and clunky and not very well controllable. Again, these all need to be replaced throughout the schools, as well as the control systems that allow you to moderate how much heating or air is coming in and out of those spaces. A couple other pictures from Webb. I moved to the exterior just to again show the skin of the building where we see it. The bottom left, you can see the window wall system. It's not particularly close up from this, but you get a sense of the age again of the building. You can see the masonry, all different colors and happening, as well as the parking area and the striping and all the cracking and unlevel sorts of surfaces, and then the front entry stairs and handrails. Not that it doesn't work, but again, just trying to show in a visual way just how old these buildings really are and how it starts to feed into the need to do some major sorts of repairs in a significant sort of way. Okay, so now this graphic is simply one that we use to start breaking down the technical aspects that we identified, and it's showing us by the major maintenance elements, the categories that we use to identify each of the projects and make sure that we're capturing it in ways that are usable, sortable, workable for you in the long term. You can see clearly by the bars that are the biggest and the reddest, the red is priority one, where the major issues are. So the two big bars are the exterior13 and then the HVAC, heating, ventilation, air conditioning systems. The exterior shell has a lot of red in it with 13 million of the total 18 million. So exterior shell, this is windows, doors, roofs. It is representing over 35% of that $50 million and 13 million almost of the priority one need. So that's a big deal. I mean, again, this is just protecting the simple asset. Think of your home, again, if you had leaking roofs, if you had windows that were failing, that's something you really need to think about how to address. HVAC, as our second highest level of overall need, has a lot in priority too. The replacement of these fan coil units, the electrical, the control systems, the units themselves, the air handling units needing replacement, really fell in large part into this category. Then the interior shell, electrical was the next biggest, and this had to do with distribution systems, panels, old panels. What was interesting to me is how low, and a little bit of an anomaly from some of the other districts that we work with, is how low the other areas were. The interior shell, so this is our floor finishes, our carpets, our painting of the walls. That's pretty low relative to the other ones, and again, it's indicative to what money you have available to spend is going to just make sure that the educational spaces, the program spaces, are at least have a positive visual feel and experience with whatever monies, again, you have available. The grounds, again, on the exterior has the same sort of thing, and the safety and regulatory issues are pretty well addressed overall. Going into the buildings themselves, so this graphic is just a helpful way to see how on a relative basis, so when we think of how much need a individual school of the 5 schools might have, one school might have 20% of the overall needs, but it might be 3 times as big as the other. So on a dollar per square foot basis, it's a way for us to equalize which building might be in worst comparable condition than the others, if that makes sense. So the dollar per square foot is a good indicator. Here, they're relatively close to each other. Hamner is reflective of the highest level of overall need and priority need, but only slightly more so than Wright and Highcrest and Emerson. Webb is the one that clearly is in the best physical condition overall. And then this pie chart is just showing us where the total dollars reside. I would like to bring to your attention, I found a mistake that we made on this graphic where I had Hamner and Wright reversed in terms of the labeling on this pie chart. The other ones are correct, not that it's a huge difference, and I'll correct that in the final that comes to you, but that was something that just caught my attention. So here we see that Highcrest at 22%, 11.2, and Hamner at $12.3 million overall need, but very close behind is Emerson, Williams, and Wright, and then Webb. Okay, so that's the speedy, high-level executive summary version of the findings. In conclusion, you have, I think what you're already well aware of, a very aged infrastructure at almost 60 years old. The dollar increases of $18.5 million to go from the 31.7 to 50.2 over the last 5 years are significant. We are seeing construction cost estimates still carrying inflation now at about 5.5% annually. So again, it just means that these costs will continue to increase without some sort of investment to address them, and certainly the priority 1 and 2 needs are the biggest areas of concern, along with the envelopes and the HVAC systems.
Thank you. Board members with questions? Yes, Mr. Lacavoli.
Can you do HVAC without doing electrical?
Yeah, that's a good question. So you can do some. You certainly can't do all. The complication of a lot of these projects, and the HVAC is a great example of that, is that once you go into a room and you're starting to affect behind the walls, within the mechanical rooms themselves, you start to open up areas where you do need to address some of the other infrastructure associated with it. So you would have to do some electrical work, you would have to do some plumbing work in all likelihood, and you can trigger some statutory requirements that are grandfathered once you cross certain dollar thresholds over a period of time within a building.
Thanks. Yes, Amanda.
Were there any significant projects that you noticed that had increased from priority 3 or priority 2 to priority 1 from 2018 to now? Is there something that's glaring and standing out?
To be honest, I didn't look at it that way. I didn't do a direct project-by-project comparison. I need to go back, and I certainly heard some public commentary about that and made a note of that. So if I could, just think about that some and look at the project detail in that way.
Okay.
Anyone else? Mr. Cassio.
Thank you. Just to keep in mind, this is not for renovation, for a new build.
Correct.
This is just to maintain our current buildings, to bring them up into a level of where they should have been years ago.
That's right. This would not modernize per se anything. All it's going to do is fix it in its exact current condition.
Okay.
Configuration.
And then, you had alluded to it a little bit. Why such a large increase?
Well, I do think if you just think about inflation, let's just take a 10% compounding inflationary rate, which we've seen certainly since 2020, but 10% on the 31.7 brings you doggone close to the 50 million. And then again, if we have the general rule of thumb is that your building's depreciated at around 1.5% to 3% of the replacement cost. I did some quick math sitting here, and I come up to somewhere around $2.5 to $3 million annual continuing deferred maintenance addition getting added to the backlog. So I think that is a combination of why we saw priority 2 increase so significantly as well.
That's good information to bring to the community at large for maintenance of buildings.
Yes, Dr. Regan-Lefebvre.
Thank you. I have a few questions, and I have to say first that this just makes me so sad and angry, which is obviously not directed at you. You're just analyzing the problem, but it's just so frustrating how little we've moved on in 2 years, in the 2 years that most of us have been on the board. So I think we're all discouraged by that and by these rising costs, which are largely out of our control, even as our budget on the board is essentially shrinking. Although it looks like it's getting bigger with everything costing more, we're actually getting less in return. So I have a few questions. First of all the percentages on your bar charts, that's percentage of cost. So it doesn't represent, for example, the number of tasks involved or the length of the work.
Correct.
Okay. I was curious by what you said about the interior shell actually being in decent shape. We're talking about deferred maintenance, but there have been allegations from members of the public, for example, that there's almost negligence on the part of the town. And what you seem to be suggesting is that these buildings are being maintained to some degree. They haven't been completely ignored. Is that fair to say?
Correct. That would be correct.
Right. Was there anything that was encouraging about that to you?
Oh, gosh, that's a tough question for me to answer.
It's probably an unfair question.
Yeah, I think the only thing I could say in the observation I was trying to express is that from what we've seen in other districts, other schools, whether they're public or private, the exterior shell is typically, and the HVAC are typically the largest areas of needs because they are so expensive and so intrusive to fix. What was interesting is how low relative to those, the interior shell, the code, and the grounds were. Usually, they're at a higher proportion, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. So it does suggest to me, without knowing enough of the specifics, that whatever dollars have been available have been directed more towards those programmatic spaces and public spaces.
Sure, which makes sense. I mean, anybody who spends their day in our school can't just say, my workspace is awful, I'm going to work from home today. That's just not I have another question about, my fear has been for a while, if we address some of these big projects that are clearly urgent, that we're throwing good money after bad if we end up replacing the schools, and this also came up in public comment. So I know if let's say I want to redo my kitchen at some point and my refrigerator breaks, right. This is kind of an oversimplified analogy, but maybe it's helpful. I know, well, you know what, I'm going to buy a new fridge. I have to think about how I want it to look based on my new kitchen. But when I got my cabinets, I can still keep the fridge. To what extent is that analogous with work on schools? If we replace a boiler and it costs us $60,000, can we keep the boiler when we replace the whole entire building around it?
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it's very important as you're thinking about your next steps that given the level of repair need to the existing buildings, that it would be prudent before making major investments to just repair as is, that you think more holistically about what the right thing is with the entire elementary schools as a master plan. Thinking programmatically, no. The simple answer to that simple question is no. You most likely would not be able to reuse your roof. You would not be able to reuse the windows. You would not be able to reuse the boiler. It's going to be sized differently. The code requirements, the fundamental system philosophy in a new building will very likely be very different than when you're going back to the 1960s fan coil unit sort of building. So I think it's impractical to think that an investment now of any significance would be money that you could recoup later.
Okay, that's really helpful. And I have one final question. How many of these, especially the priority 1 jobs, are serious safety issues? Now, I mean, if you have windows which are terrible to open, someone could break a finger in one of them. That's a safety issue. Someone could slip on a puddle. That's a safety issue. I'm not minimizing those. Right. But an electrical fire is on a whole nother level of safety issue.
Yes.
And this is what keeps, I think, many of us on the board up at night. Like, are there actual problems in these buildings that could be very, very, very dangerous?
I don't believe so. I'd have to go back and look. I mean, we would have identified, as the study was going on, anything that we came across that our inspectors felt was that way. There's less than $500,000 of priority 1 code issues that were identified. And again, proportional to others, that's a very low sort of number. But I can't answer you with definitive knowledge of every project that's out there.
Okay, this cross-examination's almost done. But final question then, based on what you just said. If you had a very limited budget and you were in a position to be making decisions here, would you put those code items first?
I would look at the code items as well as I would look at repairing leaking roofs. I mean, frankly, I don't think water intrusion is healthy. It's not going to fall into the code, but it's just as detrimental to the health of the occupants as some of these other things. So I think that they have to be considered together.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Mr. Riley, did you have your hand up?
Yes, I just have a couple observations, and that is this 51 million as we go forward is only going to increase. And the other thing, I don't think it's in the presentation, but many of us have discussed, there's no environmental remediation costs listed in your study.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. Roberts.
You're comparing 2018 to 2023. I'm wondering if, let's say that in 2018, priority 1, priority 2 was somehow the money was there and we took care of all of that. What would the schools be, what would we be looking at now in terms of renovating, rebuilding? I would have made, how much of a difference would it have made is what I mean.
I want to make sure that I'm understanding your train of thought. I think what you're saying is if you had invested the $30 million back in 2018, would that alter the way you're thinking about it now for?
Where would we be right now? Would we be looking at rebuilding, renovating as new, or how would that have affected? I think that that's been a question people have had.
Yeah, I think that if you were to have, I think given where you were in 2018, it's not so dissimilar. You're worse now, but inflationary impact of time is not something we should discount, right? Everyone's costs are higher to do anything than we were in 2018. So I think that if you had made the strategic decision back in 2018 to repair everything as is, you were also making the decision that you wanted the schools, the spaces that you have at schools, the sizes of the schools, locations of the schools is right for the next 30 years, and that's how you should be thinking about it now. You know, it's if you want to move and making, the $2 to $3 million just taking care of annual depreciation, it's a different decision than if you want to do something major to really address that priority sorts of issues. And I would just think that it's the right time if you want to do something bigger to think about your enrollment projections, think about what's happening, think about the modernization needs of the spaces. Do they work, or are they just made to work? If you were to rethink it, what would that look and feel like? And really bring it all together in a more comprehensive way so that you're more knowledgeable about any investments that you make, because you do have limited resources. Everyone does. You can never do everything perfectly, and so whatever decisions you make, you just want to make as best informed as you can.
Ms. Renata.
I just piggyback on a couple of these. One of them was we discussed that it's not healthy in these buildings, and I have to tell you, I was in 2 of those buildings teaching since 1974, and they leaked then too. So I'm just concerned with the health factors in some of these buildings. Also, the thing that keeps me up at night is the safety of these buildings. I really am very, very concerned. It's always been one of the things that drives me to get these new schools. I commented on the high school, on those beautiful sculptures they have out there. No, those are for security purposes. And I think all our students deserve to be in safe and healthy buildings. So that's always been my push to get these buildings done.
Yeah, we'll go back around. Mr. Lacavoli.
So suppose we were Yale and we had the money to do this. We don't. Our town is, I would say, more so than most, overly reliant on homeowners for our tax base. We have a small commercial tax base, and historically our town has, I would say, maybe grossly underfunded capital projects. So we don't have the money. But say we did have $50 million. How long would it keep these schools going and operating up to speed, up to code?
Well, if you were to address in their current, again, if you just made the decision to repair it exactly as you have it and were to invest $50 million, I think it would probably take you 5 years to spend that, to plan it and to spend it. I think that it would address the major life cycle needs for the next 30 years of those existing buildings. I think the fundamental question that you would want to ask yourself before dropping $50 million to repair them as is for buildings that were built 60 years ago at a time when education was delivered in a vastly different way. Is that right? Is that the right way? I think to the analogy of the kitchen that someone made earlier, if you buy a house that's 60 years old and you renovate the kitchen, do you want it exactly as it was, or do you want to open up the walls and put an island in and put a microwave in? I think that's what you're facing now.
Thank you.
Ms. Drew?
I have a question for Mr. Emmett. Do you think that maybe we could have this presentation go before the town council? Because you're preaching to the choir here, so we are all in agreement that there has to be something. However, the Board of Education does not have the authority, control, or power in regards to physical services or in regards to what projects get completed and when. I have a totally different agenda than other people, and I really think that the town council as a whole needs to see this, understand it, comprehend it, and accept what's going on. Because I think they see our schools and they're like, we're fixing, we're doing, they're good. You guys, your desks are there, whatever. We have this program, we're good. But I don't think that they really understand what is going on.
I'd be happy to reach out to Town Manager Presley tomorrow morning and get on the agenda, happily.
You presented the original study to them, though, right? In 2018?
I don't recall.
I think you did. Thank you.
Is that a yes? Okay, yes.
So they're aware of it.
Amanda, I appreciate your comment. While we were watching this presentation, I was thinking, why is this not a town council presentation?
Anyone else? Does your study include, like, we have portables, classrooms that are not well beyond their age? What does it have, what does this include for those portable classrooms?
It did include looking at the portables, yes.
And
And
like
repairs
replacing them with,
repairs to them.
Like, just repairing them as we have
Yes.
done anyway, so not getting rid of them, building a structure in their place,
Correct, just repairing.
just repairing them. So they'd be 30-plus years old and continuing. Okay.
last 5 years.
Yeah, I mean, the last portables that were renovated were Charles Wright, and it was new windows, it was new flooring, it was siding them. They are, I think the sign that was on the underside when they inspected the frame, it was about 23 years old. And I know at Highcrests were also renovated. We did the roofs, and this is going back before the first study. The roof was done, but then we had water intrusion. We took those offline for a year because of the health hazard. So the town came in, renovated those, so we're utilizing them now. So the reality is that these spaces are just that, portables, they're temporary. The other thing I would say too, and I want to reiterate and make sure everybody understands, $50 million is for repairs. It is not addressing the programmatic needs. And when you talk about a building built in 1967, I have special education programming that is very unique across the district to provide our students with equal access to a mainstream environment. And as you've heard Chuck say before during our planning, these are space-hungry programs. They take up a lot of space. The other reality that we would face also to do these repairs, I'm sitting up here and I'm thinking, if I start doing these repairs, how am I going to schedule all of these repairs and not have an impact on students? I would prefer not to be replacing roofs and having hot tar up on roofs when I have students in the building. I want to make sure that we keep the environmental hazards away. It was one of the things with the long-range plan that we did between swing space and a combo of build new and renovate. We didn't have kids in construction. And the reality here, we know our experience with Wethersfield High School. We start opening up walls, and you know what you will find. You will inevitably find some hazardous material that will have to be remediated, and I think you said, Jonathan, that is not contained within this report. Off the top of my head, some of the major components that were done, I can tell you that In addition to the portable renovations for both Charles Wright and Highcrest, we replaced the boiler at Hanmer. It got to the point where Hartford steam boiler came out and they would not repair it again. It was older than me. And I mean, I'm an old guy. 1966 was the data plate on that. That was replaced. We did a roof section over at Highcrest. We had an ongoing leak in the first grade area and in the cafeteria. That one section was done, but as is the case with most of our buildings, it's not simply doing one roof and that's it. These roofs are in multiple sections. And we found at Highcrest, when we did that section, that was one of those difficult times where we were actually having to do the work on the back end of the school day because we had an issue with supply chain and we had a lot of materials that came in late. We've done some other work with sidewalk repair. We did a replacement of the stairwell over at Webb. And again, with Webb, one of the things you saw with the numbers, I just want to make sure the public is aware of the fact that Webb is the only elementary building that has been quote-unquote renovated. It was renovated back in 2005. I will also say that within the scope of that renovation, the town at the time ran out of money and did not completely renovate. So every year I deal with the part of the building that's air-conditioned along with the part of the building that's not. We have windows in that building that I will guarantee you have hazardous material within. It has been part of capital improvement and has come on and off capital improvement multiple years. So we have a lot of work that needs to be done. As Jonathan showed you with those units underneath the windows, Webb also features that same type of heating and air conditioning system. I have parts of Webb that are air conditioned and other parts that aren't. And I will also say that when we look at the HVAC legislation, we talked about this at the most recent Facilities and Maintenance Committee meeting, this is something that we have to be aware of. Moving forward down the road, we're going to have to make sure that we are doing ongoing assessments of our HVAC systems. And I cannot increase the filtration system in the current units, it just won't happen. And when you get into issues where you start to, open up some of these systems, I can provide a high-efficiency HVAC system, but if I don't have the infrastructure with the electrical system, it won't work. So there are a lot of factors here that we need to consider moving forward. And again, I think it's important that we do this work and understand the true magnitude of what we have in front of us. These buildings, average age of these buildings, almost 59 years old. So, and again, you charged me after referendum failed last fall with going back out again and updating this, and here's our result today. So I'm very interested in seeing where the board wants to head moving forward. Again, I will also say, we had 2 grant applications that were submitted for a new Hanmer Elementary School to be built adjacent to the current building. And we had a grant application that was submitted for a new Highcrest building that was to be built adjacent to the existing Highcrest space. So the board has to look at it from, are we going to go back again for an RFP to do the planning again, the master plan? Are we sticking with what we went with and doing 1 or 2 instead of all at once at $279 million? There are a lot of questions that need to be answered, but I think that this is a good step moving forward and understanding that these buildings need to have attention paid to them. But
Thank you. Mr. Cassio.
Yes, no matter what plan we do, no matter where we go, it's going to cost money. Whether it's $50 million or $150 million, we don't have it. So whether it's maintenance of a building, we still have to go out for referendum. So we have to figure out, the larger scope of what we want to do. And our Facilities and Maintenance Committee, we felt that it was imperative that we need to make the committee a little bit stronger. We need to bring in people other than board members. We need to bring parents. We need to bring students, administrators into the committee level so we can start talking about what these buildings need. What's happening. They're the ones in the building, the principals, the students, parents are in and out. But I think that we learn from our mistakes, our shortfalls. But the other thing, I think Amanda hit on it, we can't do anything unless we have the total support of the board and council. We cannot act alone. on this project. It's got to be unified, it's got to be Wethersfield. Whether it's a simple renovation of $50+ million or building new schools, it's going to cost money. And talking about costing money, we don't have any money for phase 2 of this project. We can talk about it, but there's no funding.
And tell them what phase 2 is.
Phase 2 is an enrollment study of our district, of our current population in our buildings. The good news is that the enrollment study has been done, but it has to be updated. It's going to cost money to update that enrollment study. Wethersfield has one. It should be out October of our student enrollment. But now we have to change numbers, make it happen, and all these steps are steps that we have to do to satisfy the state, not Wethersfield. There are so many things that we have to go through to make things happen in your town. It's not just let's do it. Every step is costing money. So with that being said, we had, through our facilities committee, prior to, we had asked about ARPA funds for the next steps for money. The state of Connecticut was given money, and we thought maybe we could have gotten funds for the next step of our schools. And apparently that's not something that's going to be allocated unless it can be changed.
Thank you. Ms. Granato.
Just one thing that John talked about is, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again. Well, we're not going to. We are going to have a different committee set up where we have lots and lots of input. And as we move forward, every step of the way, we need everybody to give us their input, and let's do this together. You look at these pictures, you see them on the news, you see it right here, and then you go into our schools, and I'm in our schools, and I have to tell you, there's a major difference between inside of a Wethersfield school, elementary school, and something like that. Our kids deserve that. I've said that all along. They really deserve it, and so do our teachers and administrators. So I do think Wethersfield can do this. It's going to cost a lot of money, but we can do it, and we're going to do it differently, and we're going to do it together.
Thank you. Anyone? Yes, Mr. Riley.
I agree with Bobby and John. I just wanted to mention that time is not on our side. In 2018, this similar project was $186 million, so it went up $100 million in 5 years, and we need to make sure that we get something done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Jonathan.
No applause for Jonathan, huh?
So just.
Moving on to meetings held, Mr. Cassio, Facilities and Maintenance Committee.
Well, I think, did you
No,
do WEC?
we did that already last meeting.
All right,
That's why I
WEC
skipped
is
it.
done, okay. All right, facilities and maintenance. Well, you saw the presentation tonight. We received this, a smaller version of it at our Facilities and Maintenance Committee meeting. However, we do have concerns. We do have issues that need to be taken care of. Many of the projects, some of the projects were done over the summer. Webb sidewalk was completed. If those that are Webb go over there, see the stairs are done. A lot of sidewalks around the buildings, various school buildings have been repaired as well. The issue are never going to go away. So with that being said, we have a lot of work to do. We are continually looking at our buildings as far as maintenance with custodial staff, making sure that they are up to speed. We also talked about roofing leaks, the building, physical services and playgrounds, as well as grass mowing. We discussed the concerns with regarding snow removal. That's going to be around the corner. How is the town doing with that? And just so the community understands, the physical services component of our buildings is not the Board of Ed's, is the town's. So that is shared services. So when a project comes around, it could be either implemented by the classroom teacher, the principal, anyone in the building, and then that work order gets submitted through the superintendent and then goes into the town. And that's how that process works. So we were fortunate enough to have Sally Katz at our meeting and pretty much shared with her the concerns that we're having, that you heard today regarding our facilities of our buildings. So when we go to the board, we go to the town council for funding for these projects, we're lucky if we receive anywhere from $60,000 to $75,000 a year for all of our buildings. Their budget is small, so somewhere along the line, Wethersfield needs to look at how we're going to take care of what we need to take care of. And so, as you heard, it's for a maintenance budget for the schools per year, they're looking at $2 million. We're lucky we got $60,000 a year. So we have inherited over the years project after project after project. The good news is the cafeteria floor at Silas Middle School has been replaced, and that is that was done in-house. We are working on the high school pool, and that has been a concern. The town has purchased a new electrical van to go around to help maintenance. Also, they are currently looking to hire a new field rep. One of their employees has retired, and they have not yet replaced that individual. So the superintendent also mentioned an HVAC grant that we have applied for. It's funding for the chiller and handler at the Silas Middle School, and hopefully we'll hear back from that. And, you know, many of the concerns were people were looking for renderings or drawings of what the buildings would look like and where we're going to go. Every time we go into a drawing or a rendering of a building and the facility, it's going to cost you money. So, you know, we're trying to fix things in-house as much as we can. Costs have gone up. We have not received any new furniture in our buildings. However, we seem to make do with what we can. Let me see. It's a lot of work. So the meeting was good. I thank all those community members that did come to that meeting. You know, please show up, and, you know, we'll do our best we can at this point. Any other committee members that would like to?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Cassio. I just want to mention the HVAC grant. That HVAC grant is going to require a commitment of town funding. It is not a 100% grant. It is reimbursable. So we're hoping that with the town's ARPA funds, they would cover the cost of the chiller unit at Silas Deane, which is approximately 20-plus years old. It did go down once during the heat wave, and when we had the RLE energy audit, they identified that as one area that was in desperate need of replacement. So if we have a commitment for the funding of that from the town, we would see, upon grant submission and approval from the state, we'd see a reimbursement rate of approximately 57%. Another one of the pieces that we looked at Silas Deane that I had mentioned is the air handler unit in the gym. That has been an on and off capital improvement request for longer than I've been here. And then finally, another one of the things that we discussed when we were talking about potential grant funding was HVAC system at Charles Wright. It was one of the things that RLE identified as a need. And I know that RLE, that proposal did not move forward, but I think, you know, again, with Charles Wright, regardless of what happens, Charles Wright's going to be around for another solid decade here. So we have to do something with it. So again, that's what we're looking at right now. I have consulted with several other superintendents in the area that got grant funding in round one, so we have a good template, and enjoyed working with the town staff in this process. So just want to make sure everyone was aware of that.
Thank you. Moving on to Correct Council 9/2023.
Okay, well, the Correct Council met on Wednesday, September 20th. The Correct Council is the Capital Region Education Council, of which Wethersfield is a member, along with 35 other surrounding towns. And I can't help but saying you should see their schools. The council is responsible for the regional magnet schools and Project Choice. They have also organized and are running the Head Start program. The meeting started with a presentation overview of student services provided by CREC. CREC offers many special ed services and facilities. It was a most informative presentation. Greg Florio, CREC's executive director, proudly recognized 2 CREC schools for receiving blue ribbons from the U.S. Department of Education. He also spoke of the successful opening of their 23-24 school year, with the Herculean task of hiring bus drivers and routes being completed in an acceptable time. A back-to-school block party gave backpacks and school supplies for 1,200 students, and their motivational fall staff opening was at the XL Center. Dr. Florio also spoke of all staff positions being filled and the success of their leadership summit, where various levels of leadership worked together and celebrated the opportunity to learn skills from each other. And finally, Patrice McCarthy spoke of the General Assembly starting Monday, yesterday, for a short session. This session is primarily to work on voting in Connecticut, but there is a committee studying the workload for Connecticut teachers to be accredited and looking for ways to allow excellence in our teacher without unnecessary work pieces to accreditation. And all info about CREC and the minutes of the CREC meetings are on their website. Thank you.
Thank you. Finance and Operations Committee meeting 9/26/23. Ms. Drew.
Okay, so mine will be a little shorter. So we met this evening. We are basically on target in regards to, since it's a new budget, we do have some potential outplacements, and our substitute line is always a moving target. So we will continue to watch those.
Thank you. Meeting scheduled, the WEC, Wethersfield Early Childhood Collaborative, 10/9/23 at 4:30 PM. Correct Council, 10/18/23, 11:30 AM. Student Programs and Services, 10/18/23 at 6 PM. Ms. Grenard, you had one more?
No, I was just going to mention to you that the CREC will not be on the 10th or the 9th of October. They have their annual meeting at the Keeney Center on October 17th, and it's going to be on emotional and social issues with our early learners.
Thank you. I knew you'd mention something. There's no unfinished business. Public comment. Anyone in the public wishing to make comment, please step to the podium, state your name and your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Nick Rashu, 125 Walcott Hill Road. I'm a little shocked that Colliers flipped the names on a pie chart that presumptively went through many levels of review. So I'd request humbly that you take a look at their invoice when it comes through and ask them for a break on that. Any study that's going to be presented to the public, posted online, and to the Board of Education should be accurate. Second, I want to focus on a few things that I think are hilarious to me, and hilarious in a dark humor sort of way. Just recently, and I'm going to sort of try to tally these up as we go, $1.5 million for a field. Town council got to argue about whether there's going to be turf or natural grass, upkeep, et cetera. There's $1.5 million right there. Thousands, I think it was either $20,000 or $25,000 for a police athletics league. So there's $1.52 million. $300,000 for pickleball courts, $1.8 million. Main Street expansion, I think that was close to $1 million, $2.5 million. $180,000 sidewalk right in front of the Keeney Center. It's raised up a little bit. Great idea, $180,000. You can see where this is going. Millwoods, $1 million because we need more fields. Guess what? I'd rather have a roof on a school than a field. I know the athletics folks, especially certain members of the town council, might not agree with that, but here we are. Last town council meeting, $2.3 million surplus. Could not move that money fast enough. Guess what $2.3 million will get us? A good chunk of that, maybe one of the roofs, maybe some of the projects of the 300 that were listed that no one here got in advance of Colliers presenting anything, which is shocking to me. And then my favorite, the tax breaks that this town has given out for years. The board had a 6-year agreement to abate over $1.3 or $1.4 million in taxes. So when we hear, for example, physical services, okay, I got it, I understand how that process goes. We spend money that the hand over fist. It seems like this town has a spending problem where we don't know where to spend the money. So I'm going to leave with this, because I, for the life of me, cannot get over it. Millions of dollars were spent for ARPA. I can honestly say I wish it was wrong. I wish I was wrong. I really do. I don't think presenting any of this to the town council changes a thing. And everybody's saying, oh, well, you won't have $50 million. That's the whole concept here. My understanding is you're going to try to bond $50 million. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong. If I am, I'm wrong. I'll admit it. I've done it before. I'll do it again. So that $50 million would be all at once. If we can't trust physical services or the town council to actually fund it properly, it's like giving a kid something new and expecting him not to break it when it's been broken for 40 years. And I'll leave this, my last comment, if there's already problems with the high school pool, and this town just spent $85 million, and I'll carve out $10 million for the environmental remediation because nobody wants to say asbestos. We all know there's asbestos, we all know there's lead, 60-year-old buildings, we know it's there. So $50 million is going to become $120 million. And when I hear grant, and when I hear where the funds are coming from, it's taxpayers, it's people in this room. And the vast majority is based on residential. It has nothing to do with commercial tax base. So I will get off now and say my main thing would be there's a revaluation happening shortly. It was postponed a year, so your property values could go up even more. So when you see the Tyler guys come through and look at your houses, just be aware reval is coming, and you're going to see a huge increase in your taxes, regardless. They'll say, oh, the mill rate's less, doesn't matter. Reval's coming, there's also an election coming. So with that, I would hope everyone in this room and everyone in this town takes a really hard look and realizes, first of all, we have a spending problem because we're worried about pickleball and not our schools.
Thank you. Anyone else in the public wishing to make comment? State your name and your address, and you have 5 minutes.
Angela Egan, Clearfield Road. I heard a lot of talk about social emotional learning, and I love that we're investing in it, we're supporting our students with the Wellness Center. However, have we really dug deep to the root causes of why there are so many social emotional issues? If we take a look at research, poor reading ability has been repeatedly theorized to negatively impact children's socio-emotional adjustment, hypothesized that early reading failure results in increasingly more generalized behavioral, cognitive, motivational spin-offs that further constrain children's cognitive growth and academic achievement. These spin-offs constitute poor get poorer and negative Matthew effects, and that poor reading ability initiates and then reciprocally interacts with negative emotions and behaviors to further reduce children's involvement in reading activities and so maintain their reading failure. Thus, early reading failure may initiate a causal chain of escalating negative side effects that can become increasingly more generalized, seeping into more and more areas of cognition and behavior as the developmental cycle continues. So this was a quote from Spears Swirling, who is a very well-known researcher in the field of education. So that brings me back to the topic of literacy instruction. Currently in our district, Readers and Writers Workshop is currently being used at the Tier 1 level. At the Tier 1 level, 80% of your students should be reading at or above grade level. That's not happening across our district. So usually, when we see those statistics, we should then reevaluate our Tier 1 programs. Currently, once again, if you look at the SBAC testing, our scores have significantly decreased across grade levels, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th grades. They've significantly decreased, and it's not because of COVID. We've been on the downward trajectory since prior to COVID. And then that brings me back. So we have Tier 1s, Tier 2, and Tier 3 instruction. Tier 1 has Lucy Calkins, heavily based. Tier 1 also has Hegarty, which is a phonological awareness program. However, research states phonological awareness and phonics instruction are reciprocally intertwined. So PA, without being aligned to phonics instruction, is quite meaningless. So if you were to ask somebody at the school, oh, what do you do for phonics? Well, you're probably going to say, Haggerty is not a phonics program. Haggerty is a program that's all about auditory sounds. Phonics is print. So they're reciprocally intertwined, so as you're teaching a grapheme-phoneme connection, the student should be connecting that in print, and that's not happening in our schools. At the 3rd through 5th grade level, they're using guided reading groups, or they're using a program called Words Their Way to where children do sorts. However, let's go back to the research. Reading instruction should incorporate 5 components of literacy. That's phonological awareness, phonics, fluency, vocab comprehension. Those 5 components should be integrated within a lesson. They're not. They're being taught as silos, which is then not going to target our struggling learners. And once again, if you go back to the SBAC data, we have a lot of struggling learners across our district that kind of get lost in the path. Tier 2, students who are not meeting expectations at the Tier 1 level will receive intervention support. Our teachers do not know what to do with those students during that level. So they are currently giving them books. Teachers have to look at the book. Oh, you don't know that word, Johnny? Okay, this word has a long vowel pattern. Let's sound it out, Johnny, and let's go back and read. There's no explicit systematic instruction, teaching them how to start with the most basic concepts and then progressing to more complex skills. It's very scattered and piecemealed currently, the curriculum that our teachers are using. And this is no fault of the teachers, because they should be receiving job-embedded professional development to support them in making sure they're implementing the right instruction to meet the needs of our students. Hold on, I'm thinking of anything else before I say it. Okay, so I think that was most of it. The bottom line is, know better, do better. Our students deserve better. Our teachers deserve better support. And I just think that what we're doing is not okay. And so as a parent, I will come back here every month until this becomes a priority. We've invested in a math curriculum called Illustrative Math. Great program, problem-based. If you talk to any teachers across the district, they're struggling currently because their students are not reading at grade level, and they're having a hard time doing the lessons and activities independently in small group. The program is very heavily based on discourse, and our students can't have those conversations because they don't have the strong background knowledge. Along with Tier 1 instruction, we should be giving our students knowledge-building curricula. We are not doing that. We are reading stories that really aren't connected across grade levels, but if we want to build that background knowledge, we need to build it starting at the kindergarten level, and there should be a connection across each grade level so students can then go back to that content and have a stronger understanding so that they can comprehend texts at a deeper level. Overall, this is a big area of concern, and I know we're putting a lot of investments into, obviously, our schools, important, putting, money into programs for SEL, all important, but if kids can't read, we are setting them up for failure. If we want our students to be lifelong learners, they can't do that if they can't read. They'll be able to get by, but they're not going to be able to have those new jobs that we talk about in 20 years.
Wrap it up, your time is up.
That's it. So I hope that we can invest in literacy and give our kids the foundations they deserve.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Hi, Sally Keating, 109 Church Street. I agree with the gentleman that says the town has a spending problem, because seeing the money spent here, there, when things at our schools, basic things, simple things, are not being addressed. My granddaughter attends Emerson Williams. My kids went to Hanmer School. My kids were wearing T-shirts in the winter because the rooms were too hot, and they had to open the windows because otherwise the kids fall asleep. So that's been an ongoing problem. Emerson Williams, now, there's rain issues in the building as well. Last year, the kindergarten teacher, we had the conference, and there's rags all around the windows. I said, what's this about? Oh, the water comes in. Running joke at Emerson Williams is, well, the rain keeps some of the ants out of the, school. And then there's a joke about the mouse that, that scared them away too. So this is what our kids are living with. The rain coming in. My concern is if it's falling on a flat surface, we can wipe it up. We can clean it up. Yes, it's not good for slips, trips, and falls, but if it's getting behind the walls, if it's getting into different materials that absorb that water and the moisture stays there, what's it doing to, is mold growing? Are there indoor air quality issues? Last March, with my granddaughter, the Girl Scout troop took a walk around Emerson Williams. Found screens, ripped screens. The back of the school, maybe in the worst part of Detroit you'd see a school like this. I was appalled. I took pictures, I sent them to the principal. She sent them off to physical services. The next morning, someone was there, the screens have been repaired. On the front of the building, there's two large vents. When my granddaughter walked by one of them, we're picking up garbage for the school, and there's a piece of brick there on the ground. And so my granddaughter says, well, should we throw this away? And I look, and there's the vent, and it's missing that one. I said, no, we'll just put it aside here because maybe somebody's going to patch it. A year later, it's still there. That was in my note. I could go up to that vent right now, and I could pull it down. I could do that. So physical services did not address those vents at all. I think the town also has a huge disconnect with physical services and the schools. As I understand it, in 2017 or 2018, physical services was given the responsibility of the schools. How much money were they given? What additional staffing were they given to maintain our schools? Who walks around our schools to see these things? Parents? Book fair. So I volunteered at the book fair at Emerson Williams. They used to hold the book fair in the library, space in the library. Now they hold it in, I don't know what the room is called, but there's a gymnasium that has a stage at one end. Last year, we held the book fair on the floor of the gymnasium. So you have a gym class going on. Up on the stage is a music teacher teaching an instrumentation class, an instrument class. The noise was just incredible. This year, we put the book fair on the stage. So you've got, 20 kids and parents helping, and there's just not enough room. Part of the library, there are now cubicles in there with other folks. I'm not sure what their roles are, but they have a role in educating our kids. So there's 4 cubicles in the library taking up all kinds of space. I think that, yes, the $270 million referendum, it's a huge number. There's that work that has to be done. But the day-to-day stuff that's not being done, we have to address it. Physical services, yes, they have some sort of a checklist. What's on their checklist? What are they checking? I don't think anybody here can tell me that. I don't think anybody here has ever seen the list. So there are big issues here, and we need to fix our schools.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else in the public wishing to make comment? State your name and address, please, for the record when you get there, and you have 5 minutes.
Amy Musko, I'm 132 Clearfield Road. I didn't plan on speaking tonight, but I just want to follow up with what Angela had to say. I have a 4th grader and a 2nd grader, and I don't have any background in education. My husband and I both work in healthcare. And so it was 2020, my oldest was in kindergarten. I watched him do half of 1st grade online. I didn't know what was normal. He was reading. He's been reading since preschool until my now 2nd grader was in kindergarten. That it wasn't until the end of kindergarten that they were saying she's not meeting grade level. We work with her at home. I've read to my kids every single night since they've been born. She was put into, even beginning of 1st grade, I had to ask for her to, is she on your radar? She's not reading. We're reading with her. We're working with her. She's not getting it. I didn't know about the program that they were teaching until I listened to the podcast, Sold a Story, and talked to Angela. If you guys haven't listened to the podcast, Sold a Story, I highly recommend it. It was hugely eye-opening. So all through 1st grade, my daughter was pulled aside for SRBI, and she graduated from the program at the end of the last year. She did make some progress, but she still can't read. At the beginning of 2nd grade, I got her a tutor this summer. I would like to actually find out how many people in Wethersfield pay for a tutor for their kids, and she still can't read. So I just wanted to follow up on that. I know that there are bigger issues and structural issues with our schools,
And that is still a long-term plan. Nothing can be done from that, but this is an entire generation of kids that, I have 2 kids. One can read, one can't. Like Angela said, the data says 50% of kids will learn reading no matter what you give at them, what you present to them in the classroom. But I'm worried about her and how much I've, 2 full-time working parents. She's in school for 6.5 hours a day, and I'm paying for tutors after school and over summer. And we need to change our reading program. This new math program that is mostly reading. She is, we're only a few weeks into school, but she now is falling behind in math because she can't read the word problems. So this is a huge issue, and it's not just me. I've talked to a lot of parents in Wethersfield. This is a huge problem. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, come on.
I can't tell if
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Good evening, Tom Mazzarella, 600 Walker Hill Road. I'll also make a couple comments on town council. What I took away from tonight's presentation by Colliers, the most important thing, is the roofs. We have to recognize that this is a long-term project, and I think one of the flaws with the referendum in '22 was it didn't allow for correcting the roof deficiencies in buildings that would have to be in operation for another 10 years until all the construction was completed. It may seem like a lot of money to repair roofs on buildings that we intend to eventually either decommission or replace or renovate like new, but it continues to rain whether we're doing anything or not. The roofs should have been fixed years ago. And it's not just the school system roofs. All our town buildings, or many of our town buildings, are in the same situation. This building is one of them. We have to stop the water from infiltrating our buildings. It's the same as our homes. If you have a leak in your home, you might put a bucket under the leak for a short term until you can get somebody in there to fix it, but you have to fix the roofs. So I think it's imperative that you look at, maybe you want to do 1 school, 2 schools, 4 schools, whatever it is, you have to include funds to do at least a portion of those priority 1 costs that, I don't recall the number, 27 million or whatever it is. We need to really take a serious look at that. On the council side, we get a different view of it. We get, why would we spend $1 million fixing a roof on a school that we're planning to go to referendum to replace that school or renovate that school? So we have that same balance question that you were all having to deal with. How to continue to operate through this whole process? It's already been how many years? Also keep in mind that 2018 study, $31.2 million in maintenance, deferred maintenance items. Well, the referendum was in '22, so it was already old data when we went to referendum. So that number may have been 40. I'm not sure, but something to consider. Just a couple other comments. I know someone did mention that, I think it was Superintendent Emmett, some of the work has been done, concrete work at Webb. We were trying to get those stairs fixed, and that did get done. Some of the sidewalks. We do roof sections. There's many sections to each school roof, and we've been trying to pick away at that, unsuccessfully, I might add. The chiller and the air handler at Silas Deane Middle School, that's up for discussion Monday night, and we're hoping to approve that. As Superintendent Emmett said, it's 56% grant funded if we do get the grant, but the way the grant works, we have to pay for the project in full and then get reimbursed. So we're trying to push that item through. I just hope you'll take a long, hard look at trying to attack some of these deferred maintenance items. These have been going on for years. I know Ms. Granata can attest to leaking skylight at Charles Wright when my kids went there, and I was told that it had recently been fixed. It was 21 years leaking over the media center. So I'm embarrassed to say that. We move slowly in this town. And it's not for people like yourselves or my colleagues on the council. We work to try and get the most done with what we have to work with. $300 million ask for the taxpayers is a big ask. So I'd hope that you would consider something on the scale of attacking deferred maintenance items and maybe doing one school, 2 schools, something that's more palatable to the taxpayer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mazzarella. Anyone else wishing to make comment? Seeing none, public comment is closed. Mr. Cassio, you have a motion for us to go into executive session?
I propose that we move to go into executive session, discussion of finalization of superintendent's goals for 2023-2024.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstention? Motion carries. Thank you, everyone.